This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Ravi. Hey, everyone. So, thanks for having us. Very good morning. I believe we've already, some of you, we've already met last year. We've had a fair bit of understanding the expectations that you would like to take away from this training. So as Mr. Sachin suggested, so today we would see if we can make the most of it. So first of all, let me introduce myself again. So my
sir,
name is
now we have around 15, 16 participants, so you can please take it forward now in a good manner.
Okay, all right, thanks a lot. Okay, so it's a good number, thank you. Right, so as I was saying, so about me, just a quick introduction. So my name is Kiran, and I am currently working for one of the MNCs as a digital transformation and an automation advisor. So I've also had a past experience working as a consultant, and of course, I'm also doing a freelancing stuff as well on automation topics. Usually, I undertake the sessions for the leaders and as well as for the domain SMEs, for them to understand how they'll have to adapt to this new technology RPA into their organizations in terms of financially, how they can grow up and how the profits are going to be. So all of that is my experience that I'm currently on this topic. And yeah, so that's mostly about me. What we will also so what we're going to learn, I'm sure we've had a go through of all the topics before, but we will have another round of agenda. So I'll just take you through the topics that we'll be covering, and we'll start for the day's course. So we will learn what is RPA in depth. We will see how an RPA works. We will also understand the key features and the strength of an RPA, and we will understand beyond RPA what's beyond RPA, some of the tools that are present in the market, and how we will pick up some top 3 tools, and we'll try to see some feature comparisons. So you'll have a differences which is better at what areas. We will also learn what is an RPA and what is a BPM and their differences. We will see the benefits of an RPA, the life cycle of an RPA, concept of an RPA, ROI. Basically, this will help you if you're a team member and if you're trying to see the returns of the investment that you're doing, or how do you calculate a particular investment that you do on a particular use case or a process. So all that calculation we will see. We will understand what is COE. There's something called Center of Excellence. So we'll understand that, how it works in general. There is a specific concept called a ROM. So we will understand this, what does a ROM do, and how a ROM has different phases in it, and we'll understand the different phases. And we will see some early adopters learnings from for the RPA. We'll try to go through some sample use cases throughout our journey for the next couple of weeks. And we will also go through some best practices in terms of an RPA, not in terms of a specific tool or something. we will also be looking at some roles and responsibilities. Somebody, somebody would like to. I'm sure some of us, when we spoke last month or the last year, most of you come from operations, and as well as some of you are already doing the machine learning, and you're already at the advanced level. So yeah, so you'll know every nook and corner of the roles and responsibilities that are available in an RPA world. And the important thing is that the type of documents and how the documentation should and would happen. So we'll see all that. I would be taking you through some of the sample case documents, so for a better understanding. And so we'll do some workshop. We will try to understand your day in, day out activities, and we'll see whether the activities or so-called the use cases are a perfect fit or a right fit for your RP or not. So you will know how to do the thought processing when it comes to an eligibility of a particular process. So we'll see some techniques as well. So here, so we will use, so this will mostly be in the second week of our sessions. So I'll help you sign up to the Blue Prism, install a particular software, and also all the prerequisites. And along with this, we will also have time permits. We will also do the UI path as well. Some of you had asked earlier, so we would see that, and we will have some fun automating. You will see how effective and interesting it is to develop a code without writing a code. You know what I mean. So it's going to be fun. So let's jump into the action. Before I go ahead, anyone has any questions? Okay. So
I'm sorry to bother you. So I have one question. So when we'll go to practice in between the training, do we need to install the software?
Who's this? Kirti? Hi.
This is Kirti Rawat.
Hi, Kirti. Hey, thanks. That's a very good question. So yes, I would recommend you have your systems. I'll help you sign up to the community version of the softwares, and if it permits on your laptop, so I would recommend you to install them. And yeah, so we do it parallelly. While I do it and you also do it, or so that if you're encountering some errors or issues, then I'm always there to help you there.
Yeah, thank you, Kiran. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Kriti. Thank you. All right, so the basic things. So so for the session that we will run today, so that will be for 2-hour session every day until the next this week and the next week. We'll try to have these sessions more interactive and not as an one-sided one. One-sided interaction, or being a boring session. So I'll try to keep it as interesting as possible. Of course, there's a lot of theory to cover. You might be wondering, the theory may not really be worth, but yes, it is more effective. When you're taking this as in a career, or you're taking this opportunity within your organization. So these are very, very basic fundamentals. So feel free to unmute yourself and raise your hand, ask me any questions that you have. I'm happy to share. If I am unable to share anything then and there, I will ensure that I'll make a note of it, and I will get back to you the due course of time. Yes, so that's one thing. So within this 1.5 hour, so we'll have some ice-breaking sessions. We will also have some if anybody wants to leave your desk for any personal matters. So you can always, it's up to you. Anyways, these sessions are being recorded. Either you can put it on the chat or you can always go ahead. So there's no problem in that. All right. So that being said, let's move ahead. Okay. So this slide isn't completed yet. Okay. So what we will cover today is it's at a very basic of the RPA topic. So we'll cover what is RPA, robotic process automation, how RPA works, key features. So the same stuff that you basically. So we will stop at understanding the RPA. Not too much intake as well, but we'll go topic by topic so you get a better understanding. Okay, so before we go ahead, let's assess you with the basic knowledge. So we're going to do a pre-assessment. I'm going to share a link in the chat box, and I would request everyone to click on that link, and there will be 10 questions, and request everyone to attend those questions. The fun, you don't have to worry about scoring, etc. It is just for an understanding for yourself. Let me know if you can see the link in the chat box.
We can see that.
Perfect. Okay, so it's 9:30. You have exactly 10 minutes to complete this assessment. I'm right here. I'm going on a mute. If anyone has any technical issues accessing it or having any problems, please feel free to unmute yourself and talk to me. So you've got 10 minutes to close this. Thank you. All right. Thanks, everyone. I believe everyone has submitted it and have no issues. Okay, right. Let's move ahead. Just a second. Okay, so I understand it's Monday morning, and I hope everyone had a great weekend. So before we get into the details of it, let's do some fun. So there is a riddle. I would request you, everyone, either you can unmute yourself or you can put your answer in the chat, but I would like everyone to try this out. And we are going to have such kind of riddles in this session throughout the course. So it will be more interesting, and there's a motto behind it. So of course, I'm gonna talk about it at the end of the course. So now let's jump into the riddle, and I would request everyone to solve this puzzle. You can put your answers in the chat. You can take your time.
I know the answer.
Great. Put it on the chat.
It's 4. Answer is 4.
Correct. Okay, anyone has any other answers, different answers other than 4?
No, the answer is 4.
Okay, I see a. Let me ask Mr. Kirti.
Yes.
Okay, so you've mentioned the answer. So can you justify your answer?
So basically in 9, I calculated the number of, squares. So there are 3, 3, 9, 3, 6, 9, and 12. And this is not based on calculation, just this is an assumption. How
It's fun.
what I saw.
Don't worry about it. Yeah, it's just fun. Okay, so that's how you've come to the answer is 6, is it? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, most of others have given a different answer. So let's see which one is correct. So the answer is number 4. And yeah, that's a good thinking, Kirti. But yeah, the ideal answer for this particular puzzle is 4, because they're taking these points, the cross.
Okay.
So if you see those red highlighted ones are the ones, if you have noticed, these are 9 and this is 1, and then for this you'll have 4 joins. So that's why the answer is 4. Thanks everyone for putting your efforts. I know these are very silly, but bear with me for a couple of weeks. Okay, so let's get into the action so we'll understand some of this. So before that, let me say, let me introduce you to one of my friend. He's Mr. Bill, and what Mr. Bill wants is he'd like to set up a company, set up and run a company. Now, I would need all of your support and help Mr. Bill to know or to understand that what he needs or what he requires to set up a company or run a company. And so you can unmute yourself, you can give me the answers, or you can put it on the chat. So basically the ask is, Mr. Bill would like to set up a and run a company. So what are the basic things that he needs to run a company? What comes in your mind?
So it's the capital first, but also it is important what kind of company he wants to run.
Perfect. Okay. So let's say he's got the idea. He'd like to set up some kind of a company that, as we work, maybe a service provider, right? And so let's assume that and see what he needs. So yeah, so the capital is one thing. What else? What else he needs?
Then human resources.
Okay.
Then devices that he needs to set up to work on.
Absolutely. Anything else? Anybody?
A defined process flow.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other interesting answers? Nobody
Funds
talked.
most important.
Sorry, what was that?
I said funds.
Firms. Okay. Okay, that's a good response. Okay.
He needs financials like money.
Absolutely. Yep. Yep. So nothing runs without money. Yep. Absolutely. So
He needs some experienced people who can run their business, who can run their ideas, his idea.
Okay. Any other last 15 more seconds? Any other ideas?
He needs a streamlined process so that the production is at a higher rate, and he does not involve into any kind of NVAs in between.
Okay. Okay. So I will also add to it. So he might need some policies as well, right? To have everything in place. Anything else? Okay, so yep, I've got a pretty interesting question. So he's still thinking. So he's very thankful for your inputs. Yeah. So the most important takeaway, which are the topic, which are more relevant to our topic that we're discussing. As a company, if you're setting up your own company or to run a company, after all your financial stuff and the setup and everything, you need two more main features, or two main things that basically are the backbone to your company. So they are people, and the next is processes. So some of you have rightly mentioned, not it doesn't mean that the other ones are incorrect. They are correct, but we are picking up the most relevant two things which are which goes by our session. So people, and then you need processes. And then why you need people is basically, as a company, definitely you need some human resources, just like you said. So that's how the company runs. And for you to run the people, you need some processes. Say, for example, every company will have different departments. Maybe you start up as a single department, but eventually you'll grow up and you will have different teams. You'll have an HR team, you'll have a finance team, you'll have an ops team, and that's how. So when you build your team with the people, and you need some dedicated processes to run them, right? And also, so basically people and process, they go hand in hand in any company that you take. So if you don't have processes, you cannot run the people, and if you don't have people, you cannot have the processes. So these are the most crucial aspects in any company that you would need. Of course, all this falls in place if you have good money and all you have financiers. This place for a company. Some of the companies would still run in a tier 2, tier 3 companies. You don't need a high rise in buildings or the posh areas, but still wherever you take, not just an IT company, but wherever you go to a restaurant, you go to a pub, or you go to some retail market shop. So you'll always see that there are people who follow some processes or protocols, right? So if you go to a restaurant, a waiter has his own set of processes, and a manager has his own set of processes, and a chef has a set of processes. So people, basis on their skill set, so they fit into, they will be fit into those areas, and they have to basically follow the processes. Now that you understood the main two things for any company to run, let's take a scenario. And the scenario is going to be that there's this employee, and his work is to, I'm sure you guys have heard about something called data entry, right? Anyone has an idea or doesn't have an idea about the data entry jobs? It's basically, you'll have some data sheets or data. You'll have to collate it from various sources and then basically put it into one single system, right? So it can be there are many ways to address this data entry jobs, especially in the medical transcripts. You also have these jobs. You have many invoices to handle. So all of those companies. So let's assume that it is me, and I am working here, and my job is to receive the data from multiple sources, right? And so my day in day out job is to just simply start capturing it and then putting into a central repository. And also what I need to do is I will also have to generate some reports. And while I also generate the reports, I will also have to feed this data into some other applications. And while I do this, I should also be handling some client escalations. So that's my day in day out job. Now, I'd like to see your answers. So with this, what do you think that the advantages and disadvantages of me working in this role? Anyone? Will I be doing my job perfectly?
So I think we need to automate the process, because we have a data source, we are pulling the data and manipulating this, and we are deposit, or you are saving the report in the center repository and publishing the multiple reports using the different applications. So this is kind of a repetition task what we are doing in this process. So we can automate this and remove the manual intervention.
Sure. So, but before that, let's understand what are the the advantages and disadvantages with the work that I'm doing right now.
Okay.
So, what do you think? Okay, let's talk about disadvantages. So, what do you think that I might prone to do something? Can you elaborate on that? Can anyone?
Chances
You
of
need
If
to
there
work
is
in
no
shifts.
secondary,
Okay, no worries. One at a time. Yeah, please go ahead, Isha.
yeah, so if there is no, I am not backed by a secondary QC team, then in at times of error, the entire process might get impacted, because like the data I am working upon is getting stored in the central repository as well, and it is being used in several other areas for report generation, etc.
Absolutely, yes. Okay, the others, please. Who was the other one? Was trying to talk. Was that Vandana? Was that you?
Yes, so it was me. So, I mean, you are the single resource, so you need a backup when you're on holidays, or you may get, get ill or tired. That's another restriction that will halt the work.
Perfect. That's really very well pointed. Thanks, Vandana. Any other thoughts that you think? This is basically I'm trying to crack the answers out of you, because these are something that I'm not trying to tell you, or we're just going to have a discussion at if you're a person sitting out of the box and looking at this skill set. So what are the most disadvantages? And I'll tell you why you have to, or this is very useful. There is this taboo in everybody's mind that this automation is going to take out everything from us, lose the jobs, etc. So I'm gonna answer that. But yeah, let's understand the disadvantages. So I've got two beautiful reasons. Any other things other than these two answers?
It increases the business risk.
Okay, and how do you justify the business risk?
Because chances of errors are increases. The more the errors, it also affects the business risk.
Very good point. Thanks, Jaswinder. Yeah. So any other stuff?
Yeah, and there may be some financial loss if we get an error, or if this would be a financial process.
Okay. Point noted. Thank you. Any other
There
slides?
is a lot of human intervention that is going around, with the entire cycle.
Okay. Correct. Yes. Absolutely. Okay. So let's move ahead. Thanks. Really appreciate the way that the responses that you've given. So let's see with this approach how I am the disadvantages, or I may prone to do, or be a mistake to the company. My time and productivity, like somebody mentioned, if I am the only one working, or maybe the very less resources who are working on this, so my time and productivity will be at stake, and I keep on doing the same thing again and again. That will eventually, as we are humans, we tend to make mistakes, right? So nobody is perfect. It's obvious, quite obvious. So we do make mistakes, and you might need a good amount of resources, and that's because somebody mentioned that yes, I may go on leave, or I take good vacation time, or I only work 5 days a week, or 8 hours in a day, or 9 hours in a day. There will be many festivals or public holidays around, so I definitely need those vacations to be taken. So in that case, as a company, I will have to run it around the clock. So if I have to do it and give a deliverable to the client, so as a company, it really impacts, it really bothers me to mainly concentrate on these three things, which will eventually lead to the cost to the company. So you've pretty much covered all the answers. So you basically know everything. Now, see, as a person that I'm doing, I can, if you see 8-9 hours of job in a day, how many hours would you think that I will be more productive enough? It'll basically, the survey says that you'll be more productive for 5 hours, not more than that, right? So yeah, of course, it's pre-COVID situation I'm talking about. After post-COVID, you have your own flexible stuff. But yeah, so as an average person can only concentrate 4 to 5 hours of his dedicated time as a productive. And so as a company, I'll have to look at all of these parameters, and because if I have a deadline to deliver to the client, and I might have to hire more resources, and I'll have to do some good trainings to avoid the errors. And there are all I'm investing, and whenever I'm bringing in new staff, I'm investing as a cost. Now this is how the companies look at, it's not their fault, usually they want to deliver the best to their clients in faster way, and most quality, the better quality the product that goes out to the client, so will bring more business to the company. So that's how positively the companies look at and see how can we do. So in the same scenario, as Mr. Kirti has already mentioned, that the solution that we can automate such kind of scenarios. Yes, so let's see what happens if I step aside for this particular scenario and I replace this with a bot, and the bot does the actions, right? So it's going to be the same thing. The bot is going to read all the data from the different sources. It'll start uploading it to the central repositories. It'll generate the reports, and it will also talk to the other applications to manage the data there. And if there are any critical situations like escalations or something, bot can always tell me, because it might need some human touch. And that's when I step into the action and I deal the escalation. So it's so simple, right? So this is how we can convert the mundane task as to deliver the best. And with this, what are you achieving is basically whatever we saw the negatives in the earlier slide. So you will achieve your the time and productivity. You will, because these are bot, the processes, the bots that are going to run. So there will be less chances of errors, and you don't really need to hire more people or have more people with these set of mundane tasks, and eventually that's going to be a cost saving to the company. So this is how the companies are thinking at, and that's why you see from the past few years this RPA is a buzzword, and you get to hear it a lot now. And here we are understanding, trying to learn, and this is not gonna leave anytime soon. So this is gonna be with us. It's gonna be with us for a quite good amount of time. So let's understand now what is an RPA. Now, most of you are already aware. So the RPA is nothing but a robotic process automation. So there's an Indian meaning. Some of you might, I'm sure some of you are already aware of this. But yeah, so it's a good to know information, the basic fundamentals. So the RPA, the name itself has an inner meaning to it. And then the name was, this name came from a company called Prism. So back in 10, 12 years from now, I think even more, so not even 10, 12, even more than that. So there's a company called Prism. So they named their product and this automation as robotic process automation. And if we split this robotic process automation into 3 categories, so every word has its own meaning. So it if I dissect it. The robotic has its own definition. Basically, it's like you are doing some processing or engineering that involves any design or designing or operation of any robots is basically a robot. And of course, there is a definition right in front of us. The next is process, and process is everywhere. As we spoke in the earlier slides, every species on this earth, or everything that you do has a particular process involved, right? I get up, I sleep. Between that, there's a routine process. You know, I cook. I'm a very good cook, by the way. So I cook. So say let's take you know, Maggie. That's the most I can do. But it'll be tasty. I you know, trust me. So you know it. You know, Maggie is so famous. If you have to make the noodles, there is a procedure. So every product, you will have the back of the label. You'll know the directions to use, or you know how to prepare. So if we take Maggie as an example, you know, I'm a pro in doing it, so I do it in a different way. So I might you know, boil the water first, and then maybe put the masala, let the masala, you know, get into it, and then I add noodles. Of course, most of you also do the same way like me, but yeah, there's a different method to it. You know, I'll boil the water again. So this time I'm going to put noodles first, let them get boiled first, and then I add masala. So if you see, the outcome is same. What I get is same, but there are different methods, different ways of doing it. So for everything, there is a process. Now, a step-by-step sequential procedure is called a process. So that's the simplest way to put it. Now, the automation. So it's kind of a technology where it can be operated with less human interaction is an automation. Now, all three together as a definition. So, you know, RPA, when we come to the IT world, so the RPA as any capability, be it a software or a service that allows to transact in any IT application or a website. So when I say IT application, it can be a desktop application or any website, typically the way a human would do to automate. It can be a complex or a rule-based work. So that's typically what is an RPA. Not necessarily everything a human does on the system is automatable, but at the same time, it is also not necessarily that nothing is impossible. You know, the way these tools are evolving right now, you know, it can do much more than what we think right now. Okay, I'm going to take a pause for a couple of seconds and see if you guys have any questions on this. I'm sure this is very basic, but yeah, I'm going to keep a watch on time. Okay, let's move on. Now there's this Mr. First. He is a CEO for one of the the major survey websites, the HFS, Horses for Sources. So what he has to say is that nowadays the companies should not treat automation as your strategy, right? And you know, if you see in his own words, the automation is not, you know, just a strategy. It is necessary competency in every company to ensure your process provides data to achieve your business outcomes. Now, if they're not automated, you will struggle to run a remote work from anywhere stuff business where front and back offices are aligned as one office. Now, the companies will have to take this, like an automation must be a native to any organization, giving it the ability to develop AI to orchestrate these processes. It is not hyper or even intelligent, it's just to be native. Now, this talks a lot, you know, this gives a very good understanding. So your strategy is to have a data that enables you to stay ahead of competitors and make a smart business decisions. Now, if you take any, there are two types of companies, right? You know, when it comes to an IT, so there's a service providers and there is a product based. And when you split them up, everybody needs an automation. So that's why you know, it has become even more crucial during this time. In fact, after COVID, it really tested or challenged many of the companies for the ones who have not even adapted to these conditions yet. And I'm sure they are already, fallen back in the race of, the competition. Yeah. So, and I'm sure apart from this RPA, you must have heard about some good technologies around, and what we see on the screen. I'm sure most of you have heard of these names already before. So now what this slide talks about basically is the intelligent automation and how a new technology is being adopted by the companies. Now, allow me a second. Let me take the laser point. Okay. Now, if you see, most of the companies, so what we have here are, the technologies on our left. On the top, you have the stages that these technologies and the companies are currently adapting. Now, there are certain very good technologies called smart analytics, computer vision, machine learning, natural language processing, AI, cognitive or chatbots, and then an RPA. Now, unsure is the percentage of the companies who are really not even sure about these technologies. Right, so this is what you see in the world market. These many set of companies are not even sure of these technologies yet. The next stage is no plans. Though they know it about these technologies, they don't have a plans to basically implement. Now, if you see, gradually the percentage here is getting increased. So even though they know about these technologies, they don't even know how to utilize them effectively. And if you see this top second would be, one of them would be RPA. Now the third one is piloting right now. Some of them are experimenting it, R&D. So they're still in a phase of understanding whether these tools, the technologies are really going to help them out, because there are companies who are there from past 20, 30, 50 years or even more than that. So they still go with the legacy way of handling stuff, and it's so difficult for them to convert or migrate themselves to do some kind of a new digitally transformed processes. So this is the amount. And if you see again, the top two would be your artificial intelligence and then the RPA. So these are the top two technologies that are currently being piloted. And if you see how much percentage they are really going into the production, is if you see now, the RPA gradually comes down, and the last one is the scale up and industrialize, which is basically, you already have put it into the action and it started giving you the returns, and it's already been industrialized. If you see, the percentage is very, very less. And the reason is because of lack of knowledge, how an RPA usually works. And, there are many aspects into it. Couple of years back, workforce was we literally don't have a workforce who are very good at dealing with this. Now, this slide was a survey from Horses for Sources, so you can visit this site and you'll get more in understanding of how the world is going around with an RPA, etc. I'm going to take a pause and see if you guys want to discuss anything on this slide. Okay, I move ahead. So what we saw was basically, how those important technologies in the market right now and why that's a failure. And I'll tell you why. Now, there was another survey that was made between 2015-16, and the survey was to see the prediction of the investment that will be made in this RPA. So as I said, so RPA has services and software. Now, what do you mean by services and software? It's simple. So there are different companies in the market who only provide you the tools, but they don't provide the workforce. So you have to be trained. So for the companies like the service provider companies, will have to upskill their employees, or have a future ready teams for delivering this RPA by using these softwares. Now, if you see back in 2016, the investment was about $612 million. And the projection was that it would go and up to 4 million or $4,000 million. Now we are here right now, and this number, as we speak, it's already crossed. They're talking in trillions right now. Okay, that's how the market has adapted to this, and then they realized how powerful the RPA is. Most of the companies, every company has their own back offices. Every mundane